welcome to this week's DSS break. It's great to have you with us today. We're here live every week to discuss the world of data science, AI, and machine learning. And we chat about unique experiences and best practices with leading data professionals in a 15-minute break. I'm Anna, the founder of DSS and Formulated By, and today I'm streaming directly from our headquarters, which is located in the heart of Miami, just a few blocks away from the design district. And today we are delighted to welcome Fatma Tarlaci, VP of Engineering at Open Teams, and also an adjacent assistant professor of computer science at UT Austin, to explore the intricate relationship between AI technologies and their societal implications, which is super important. And with her unique blend of expertise in computer science, humanities, and specifically the focus on natural language processing, Fatma will dive into the significance of responsible AI development and the vital role of open source software in driving ethical innovation. And we'll uncover her perspective on leading AI and machine learning initiatives, fostering team creativity, and her vision for technology that benefits humanity, which is really important. And I wish more people thought about this. Fatma, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm very happy to be here.
Perfect. Well, let's go ahead and dive right in. Maybe you could tell me a little bit about your journey and what got you interested in data science and engineering in the first place. I'm sure you could have done a lot of things.
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the things that first got me into the field was this question of like how we are going to uncover meanings and insights and make predictions about data. And that kind of resonated deeply with me because I'm coming from an interdisciplinary background where I studied humanities in my PhD and then transitioned into computer science. And in my studies in humanities, one of the things that we always learn to do and learn to do really well because we've had to is critical thinking and trying to look behind beneath the surface to uncover some patterns and meanings and any kind of indications about what the artifact that you are looking at is indicating. So that kind of like, I've seen quite the parallel when I first started doing like data mining. It wasn't even data science for me because this was during my PhD. Through the end of it, I was doing some text mining applications in my research, and then was learning about computational linguistics. And then from there, I kind of got into the field of data science. And then I decided to go back to grad school and did like more studying and learn computer science. So that was like the first iteration, I will say, like for me to just get curious about this field.
Cool. No, it sounds like you really dove deeply into it, and how it's really interesting with your background. How do you leverage that, the humanities and the computer science, to complex machine learning and AI challenges? I mean, that's super interesting.
Thank you. Yeah, I get different variations of this question because when someone looks at my background, they think, oh, it's like a vertical transition. It's like, how do you do that? But I actually don't see these two different fields or many fields, to be, as a matter of fact, as dichotomies. So if you ask me with someone who has some training in humanities, which involves different fields, I believe that the ability to perform qualitative analysis actually complements the analytical rigor of quantitative analysis effectively, because you can't only look at the data, especially in the field of AI and NLP, as we are doing today, and only take it on the surface level. There are a lot of variations that and factors that play into that data that it's kind of hard to decipher, I guess, like,
Right.
And I think that kind of really helps me from my like training in diving deep and really understanding what's going on in the text. In this case, it's the data, or what am I looking at, and what are some of the patterns that I need to discover. And once given the tools, like all the algorithms that we are using in machine learning, this becomes even easier for me, I think, in a way, to uncover those details that may not be very immediately apparent when you first look at the data. And I think, especially now that we are interacting with natural language, and natural language to use and to talk to AI, and it becomes the main medium to actually like use these details and leverage the power that you have any kind of interdisciplinary background. So I think one thing that it really gives me an advantage in a way is that when I design solutions for, let's say, a client project or some personal interest that I have, or when I design a product, I usually think about all these different aspects that may not be the first thing that a pure technical training might provide to you. So I definitely take advantage of it, to be honest with you.
No, that's very cool. I think more, I mean, I think that's actually, that definitely helps you have a different perspective. And that's what we need. We need a more diverse perspective on the
I
team,
agree,
right? Making
definitely.
these decisions. Well, let's dive into looking at some recent advancements in NLP that you're excited about.
Okay.
How are they contributing to some relevant things that we care about?
Yeah, there is a lot, as you also know, there's a lot that's going on in the field, especially in NLP lately. I think one thing that I have been genuinely interested since I started getting into this field back in years ago when I was doing the computer science studies is the the noticeable ability that the LLMs, the large language models that we are dealing with today, the noticeable ability to have common sense reasoning. And this was something I actually studied when I first started studying the natural language processing. And that was back in the day of GPT-2s. And we did not really
Yeah,
have the technologies and abilities that we have today. And the question was like, can we actually have these models to have common sense, which is something very, very difficult to do for algorithms, for machines, as opposed to for us. Most of the time it comes easily. We don't even have to think about it. So the the advancements in that and the improvements in that I am seeing in the different models that we are working with today, both open source and closed forms as well, is very exciting. It's also a little bit, wow, this came in too soon, or like sooner than I expected it to be. So that was one of the things that I'm closely following and trying to see where things are heading. And in terms of applying it to real world problems, I think once you have that kind of reasoning in a machine and knowing that you can scale it at an unprecedented level, as we might be able to do so, the applications will be so broad, and we will even be applying these kind of technologies to problems that we didn't even think about that we might have had, or we might actually new problems might emerge because of
yeah, exactly.
these models and this AI power and systems that is readily available to a lot of people today. That wasn't the case before. So I'm really excited about a lot of things in the field that is happening right now, and it is exhausting as well, because like it's changing so fast, and if you really want to stay relevant and you really need to keep up with it. So
Yeah, for sure. No, it's hard to keep up these days. So, but let's
definitely.
talk a little bit about open source. I know you're an advocate for open source AI tools and research.
Mhm.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about why is it so important for AI and innovation, because I think some people might not really understand, right? Why is open source so important?
Right. Yeah, there are a lot of debates around this is a controversial issue. Definitely. I think, in my opinion, when we are open sourcing, or open source as a paradigm in itself, inherently distributes opportunities in a powerful and effective way to everyone. So, and sometimes we call this democratization of AI, or the field. Once we make, by open sourcing all these resources and technologies, we actually encourage a diverse range of contributors and perspectives to the table, which was not the case, which wouldn't be the case if we didn't do so. And what comes with that, this accelerates science and research and everything that we are slowly discovering. Maybe I shouldn't say slow, but we are discovering today will be contributed by a number of perspectives, as opposed to like a group, a team in a company, or some entity that actually controls the technology. So I think the main advancement in this one is, if we want AI to serve humanity, and I believe a lot of people would want that. We really need to have everyone at the table. We really need to hear the feedback of everybody and see things that we maybe the developers or the authors of the research or the models may have overlooked. No one can be a domain expert in all the domains or disciplines. So I think that that's another part of this. And finally, I think it brings equity to everywhere. Someone who may not be able to go to the schools that they can study this stuff, but they might have a computer and access to internet and play with these models and actually learn. And that is, I think, critical too. And if we don't do that, it will not be equally distributed to everybody, and we will probably slow down the progress. So I can talk about open source like forever, but I'm going to cut it short. I just want people, maybe sometimes when I get this question, I want people to think about if, let's say, PyTorch or NumPy or Transformers architectures were not open source, like we wouldn't be where we are today as
Right.
the state of the art or the research and everything. So yeah, I'll just stop there.
Yeah, no, and I looking forward to your presentation too, because you're going to dive deeper in there in a couple weeks too. But let's talk a little bit about the whole thing about, ethical considerations of AI and social impacts of AI, because I think that's also really important and it's so new that I think a lot of people are not really sure how to approach it. So maybe you could talk a little bit about how you're looking at it and how you're approaching it and suggesting, what are you suggesting to your clients and such?
Yeah. My primary suggestion for any maybe team of researchers or engineers or practitioners that are dealing with AI or building AI in one way or another is to proactively engage the concept of responsible AI development at every stage of the development. It's not only an afterthought, it's not a checklist, it's not only data privacy or bias that we often refer to. Of course, those are important too, but those are not the only things that we need to care about. If we do not implement if we do not implement this idea or this philosophy into the very core design of the AI, it will not stick, or it will not be as effective as it could be. So like the entire life cycle of AI development, and you can call it like a software engineering life cycle or software development life cycle, you need to integrate it from the get-go. And it's as I mentioned, you need to think about things like transparency, explainability, and accountability of these algorithms and models that we are building and putting out there in the world. So.
No, 100%. And I think that also brings me to the next question about how should AI communities ensure the safety and like the safe deployment of AI systems, right? Because especially if nobody is observing that, right? How do they make sure it's all okay?
Right. I think we are improving as a lot of stakeholders in the field, and this include policymakers and practitioners, researchers, engineers who may be just creating tools and not necessarily building models. I think it will require a concerted effort from the entire community, and not only the people who are building it or serving it or hosting it on some compute. So like I almost think like we need a safety engineering around AI, and I know that there are some initiatives and efforts that have been kind of picking up, which is very promising. But I think we still need a lot more. And anybody who is following the field, we started reading about cybersecurity attacks using generative AI and all the problems that come with it. So there's a lot that we as AI community, anybody who is interacting with AI in one way or another, even if they're just users, they have a responsibility to care about safety and to care about creating and developing responsible AI. So in addition to that, I know that we have also started getting, as nations around the world started putting in regulations. I know there's a lot of discussion that's going on, and we have some way to go. But putting in ethical guidelines, even if you're an engineering leader, or if you're the owner of a company, you can put those guidelines and enforce them in your setting, and from there, hopefully, it will scale and it will become the norm, that and this is how we do it. And promoting transparency, like we always do, caring about data privacy, and caring about thinking about the impacts that whatever you are building will be doing in the world are primary things that nobody should ignore, if you ask me.
Yeah, no, 100%. No, thanks. That's a great answer. And I think the next question is, what really drives your passion for AI and machine learning? And how do you balance that as a leader and also an educator? Because that's a lot of things to balance.
Yeah, I know. And so, are you asking why I'm spending my weekends reading papers? No. No. So I think the first thing for me, at least, I'm curious. I really love my field. I really like what I do, and I just want to learn what is happening, and I want to keep up with it. And in this field, specifically in NLP, even just in NLP, or widely in AI, there is a lot that you will need to keep up with if you really want to understand it. And I think um, part of it is also, I don't see it as like a something extra that I have to do. I think it's part of my job and responsibility if I am calling myself a practitioner or an expert or somebody who's doing something with AI today. And like anybody, anybody who is kind of like engaging with AI, I think we are in a transformational phase right now. It's like this era is gonna we're gonna look back and remember, and like the
For
things that
sure.
we witness, we read, or we ignore and we criticize are all kind of leading the way to how we are gonna, what kind of a world we are gonna have a few years down the road. So thinking about that kind of makes me sometimes a little bit like concerned. So I'm like, I really need to be aware of what's going on. And in terms of how do I balance that with everything else that I do, I try to make it serve to what I do. If I'm leading a team or working with colleagues, I try to make it relevant to like and maybe help them or maybe learn something from them, as well as same thing goes for my students as well. And they're they're learning all kind of materials in this field, so they're very open to that too. So I guess at the end of it, it's just my desire and curiosity.
Yeah, no, and I think you kind of answered my last question there. What advice would you give? It sounds like just continuous learning, right? Like that's what.
Yeah, I think that is by default. If anyone is interested in the field and questioning if it is right for them, or if it is I mean, I can't answer that obviously, but if it is the right time to do it, or if they're feeling like, oh, am I too late? That's a lot going on. I can't learn all of it all at once. Think about it like maybe when compared to other disciplines like math, like it has hundreds of years of history and things to learn. But when we're looking at what we're dealing with, especially within the context of AI, if you don't have that much of things to learn. It's roughly 50 years, I would say, will be studying that history will be enough for you um, to get up to speed with it. And I think it's for me, like even if somebody who knows nothing about AI today but interested because they keep hearing about it everywhere else, I think it's a perfect time to start now. And I also think, as I mentioned earlier, we are at a critical juncture where contributions and perspectives of everyone is going to be vital and will shape the future of AI. So I also tell my students and anyone who asks me this kind of questions that follow the top leaders, follow the field, follow the research, and try to understand it. Do something every day that is like that you learn that day about the field. And it doesn't have to be too much. It doesn't have to be all at once. But as you get more and more interested, you will realize that you will accumulate a lot of information. There's only a finite number of things that you will have to learn at the end. So that's kind of like a mindset shift, I guess. But yeah, that's what I usually tell people.
Yeah, it doesn't sound that scary, So I think, thanks, no, thanks for that advice, and thank you so much for spending time with us today. It was
Of
really
course.
great to have you, Fatma, and Thanks for sharing your experience.
It was
And
a
I'm
pleasure.
really looking forward, yeah, and I'm looking forward to learning more, and go at you diving deep into open source on March 20th. So yeah, it's actually only 2 weeks away. I
I know.
can't believe it.
I'm
I
super
know.
excited and looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for watching, and have a wonderful rest of the week and weekend, everybody. Bye.